Show me your portfolio. I'm really eagerly interested.
This is one of my projects called Kaadumane.
Okay.
So I asked my photographer to document the Kadu first.
Where is the? Oh, okay. Kadu first. Okay.
Yeah, so
Kadu
this
means
is
forest.
in Kabbinale,
Okay.
which
Where
is
is Kabinala?
this is about 5 minutes from where we are sitting right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So it's a national park, Someshwar Bioreserve and Kudremukh National Park. It's
Okay.
kind of between them.
Ooh.
And this was a design and build project. So it was designed and built all for a budget of 25 lakhs.
Okay.
And for a couple, essentially for a family, but essentially for somebody who was retiring and wanted to move back to their village. They've worked in Bangalore for about
Okay.
their entire life, essentially in the
Mhm,
hotel
mhm.
business, in the hospitality sector. And they decided to move back.
Oh, there's the money. Okay.
That is the money in through the Kadu.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to build a home where they can actually have that sense of peace
So
post
this will be the
retirement.
tiger's view.
Yeah,
from here.
pretty much. As you approach the building, these are different views of the building you get.
Okay.
So we built it with all natural material. Primary building material was laterite.
Okay.
Then roofing was mangalore tile.
Okay.
The roof was done with galvanized iron trusses,
Okay.
or rather rafters. And we also worked with the local stone sculptors to have about 6 stone columns for the Dwarapalakas I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
So I've done that, and yeah, this is how it's come
Nice.
about.
It looks nice.
So we've used a
Proper
lot of
Malenadu vibes.
Absolutely, it's a fairly compact home. It's about, I think, 1800.
So cement is the gluing between the laterite.
Yes. So
Okay.
cement was the material to bind the stone together, but the plastering that was done was all lime. So lime, unfortunately, today's become very expensive.
Okay.
So to build with all lime actually ends up becoming a little more expensive than cement. So we did a little bit of a hybridization where we tried to work with both natural and this material. This the plaster lets the wall breathe, so it keeps the house fairly cool. And in a humid condition also it absorbs a lot of the moisture, so it helps keep the space dry. This is the view from the main door to the outside towards the Kadu. And this is just the roof and the elevation. So we were looking at certain elements like this just to highlight the roof.
What elements?
This is what is called it's more of a Kerala element than Tulunadu. It's called a Mugappu.
Okay.
That came about.
What is its role in the functionality?
So the functionality isn't there isn't
just
any
the aesthetic one.
No, you can have a ventilator there. In this particular case, we didn't, but we could have introduced a ventilator there. But here, it was more in the way the plan developed. That if I didn't have this roof, I could see this joint particularly would get exposed. So in order to cover the joint, I made it, and then also it made sense to me in the sense of the form of the building.
Clever.
So I used that to my advantage to develop something in that sense.
Looks pretty good. Neat.
Yeah. So we've all mangalore tiles.
So what is the plaster? That's the paint, right? The plaster you mean?
It's not paint. It is lime plaster, all natural, and we mixed a little bit of soil from the site to get the color of the.
I like its pattern.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've used all refurbished wood for this house.
Okay.
This is probably a door from a 80 to 150-year-old home.
Oh.
We don't know exactly the age of it, but it's not a newly made door. So we work with a lot of refurbished wood and refurbished elements of architecture from old homes, simply because it's available. If we can't save it from demolition, at least might as well reuse it in our building. So we were just documenting all the floral patterns that the artisans sort of design. And this is a window that I designed and was made with refurbished wood. So this entire thing is not old.
No.
It's only the wood that's old, but this was newly made. So it's almost like you're kind of reviving that knowledge system. When you ask a carpenter to do a traditional window, he has to learn how it was earlier, and then in that process, you've educated your craftsperson to do it. And this is a door in the back. I tend to do these sort of doors which open out to the landscape. Like I said, a lot of my buildings tend to bleed out into the landscape. So I was also looking at the newer materials which still have that essence of floral design in them, just to go with the vibe of the building. These are the internal spaces. So the living room, the doors, the windows, the bedrooms. We've used warm light everywhere, just so it's very subtle lighting. The whole intention, I think, with a home is for us to relax once we are there. So,
what was the budget of this project?
Just 25 lakhs. So fairly low budget. We took it up as a challenge just to see if we can achieve a home in 1500 per square feet. So we actually were able to do that.
That looks haunted.
Yeah. So I let my photographer Murali Abbemane do his creative bit. I get out of their way. I tell them you have enough creative freedom to do whatever you like. So they go a little crazy.
I'm sure you did not send it to your customer.
No, I didn't. But I like that. I mean, he's very he has this ingenious sense to him, where he uses the elements to just really surprise you.
Wow, I like the modernity here.
The modernity is there in the bathrooms.
That shouldn't be compromised.
That shouldn't be. Yeah, ideally. Nice. That, like I said, I'm still designing for a modern person.
Person.
Yeah, so I have to look at those aspects. So again, we looked at the tiles. We wanted floral patterns in the tiles as well. So we chose the tiles accordingly. And so there's that correlation between the wall tiles that were used to this is from 150 years old. So just the door with the sankole, this thing is called a sankole, that is used to lock the door.
And there's also consistency in the design, floral in the floor tiles as well, floral in the door design as well.
Correct.
So consistency is important.
Correct. So there is that harmonious nature to the entire space. So I'll just speed this up. So this is the lock I was mentioning earlier, like how the doors get locked.
Yeah.
This is a more traditional door. And again, Murali with his craziness. And this is the back. Also, we have a jagali. So that's not something that's usual to a traditional home. But I decided that we'll have it so that we can shade it from the south sun and also have more of our drying yard and utility purpose.
Flexible approach.
Yeah. So we wanted all the textures to kind of mingle and match as well. So we're very sensitive to the color of the stone, the color of this plaster, how the tiles respond to the climate. So we don't generally, for any of our projects, we don't recommend gutters because we feel like mangalore tile, the way it's designed is beautiful and the way the water falls is also beautiful. So we don't recommend that. So we have our muse here who we picked out for this project because we felt like she represents the people of Tulunadu. So we wanted her with the building and
Nice.
So these are again handmade tiles from Udupi. Just that kode and that humidity and all of that.
Yeah. So what did your client say? Were they happy about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for them, I think they're happy that it finished in the budget.
Okay.
Because it's always that, right? For them, it's more rational and practical.
Oh, this is a nice picture.
This is, yeah. So they were quite happy in that sense. And we also kept in mind the granddaughter who we felt was going to spend a lot of time with her grandparents in this house.
Yeah.
So for us, it is that whole generational thing I was talking to you about, where the kids are also influenced by the architecture they grow up in. So for us, that was very important, that the grandchild gets that. And maybe when she is 25 or 30, she has those childhood memories from this home that hopefully is going to keep her tethered to this land, wherever she is.
True.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the next project.
So this is another residence that I've designed, where it actually comes with a budget of 2.5 crores. So that's a straight up escalation of 100%. 100 times, I mean. So I just wanted to, from 25 lakhs to 2.5 crores. So, I just want to show you the projects. So, how scale, I think we touched upon that topic where Guttumanes and Bidumanes are all about scale, and you have the smaller homes with the same materials but more humble. So I think that becomes very apparent here. So in this home, you can see that the laterite here is still exposed. But it is what is called a paper joint detail, where you don't see the grooves that you saw in Kaadumane, the cement joints. So it's much finer. So you are investing more in the craftsmanship here. Then we've done.
Is this just the coating or the entire?
No. It is an actual block of laterite that it's built with, but it's just the way it is built is more laborious and labor intensive and craft oriented.
Budget was more here.
Is a lot more here.
And
it takes more time to build.
What keeps the laterite stones together? Like that?
It is still cement. It is still cement, but the way it is built, we do a certain notch on the inside where you don't see the cement from the outside. There's a different technique of how you build with it. So it's the same material, but it's used in a completely different manner where it's elevated in its nature. And so that is straight away, that's a contrast you will see. Then we also see that we have this kave kale that we've introduced, which again is a very local artisanal craft that we incorporated to this house because we had the budget bandwidth to do so. This is again one of our muses that we picked out to shoot the building with. This is, you can see the whole Guttumane influence here, which is the central courtyard home there and the two side sort of additional spaces. So it's a multi-courtyard building. So you can look at almost 1, 2, 3, 4 courtyards in this particular structure. So if I move on, let's say to the plan, you will see that there's one courtyard here, another courtyard there, and then 2 more here. So it's a fairly spread out building. But that being said, it is.
So what's the capacity of this building? How many people it can?
Now the capacity of the building,
in the sense of a bedroom,
it is a 4-bedroom house. So it is meant for a family of 5.
Joint family.
Not a joint family. They are a nuclear family. To one couple, 2 of their kids, and 1 grandmother. So it is still a fairly small family I'm addressing here. But the spatial requirement was bigger because we had a cow shed, we had car parking and all of that. Because car parking is not a concept in Guttumanes, like a garage. It's a fairly modern. But we use the sort of elements from Guttumane to try and integrate those sort of aspects. So this is what is called an Ane Bagilu. Ane Bagilu simply because it's bigger than any other door in the house. So Ane represents the scale of it. That this is also Kerala element. This entry doorway, I think it's called a Padipura or something of that sort. So we want to highlight, and this was something that was already there. There was an existing heritage home in the same site that the client wanted to pull down and then rebuild because it was done incrementally and not in a very nice manner. So even though I approached him saying, let's restore the house, he was not ready with it. So we had to pull the whole thing down, but then we studied the plan thoroughly before we moved to the new design. So these again, you have mangalore tile, laterite. We've done cement plaster here. It's not lime plaster, but the windows were essentially designed to be more traditional in that sense. This is the front elevation of the house. So we've also tried to look at asymmetry as one of the aspects rather than have a very symmetric house, which is identified in Guttumane. We wanted to try and take a different approach
of making it asymmetrical.
Yes. So you know, it also, I can go back to the question about innovation and traditional, how I kind of bring that together. These are certain ways I take the materials, I take the construction technique, but the way I use it is not the same as the traditional way. I have a slightly different approach to it. They have a cowshed, so we're trying to capture how animals also occupy the
interact with the space.
Yeah, we made it ventilated for the cowshed so that they have constant aeration.
So even the cowshed is built according to the wind direction.
Yes.
Thinking of
Yes. So we wanted the smell and everything to be exhausted from the house rather than come in. So it was placed in the east side, so that when we do have west winds, it sort of is exhausted. We also have dogs in the house, so we were very sensitive to that. So this katte is not exactly designed for them, but it was designed for the grandmother of the house, because she has that habit where she sits on the katte and she interacts with her neighbors of who's going up. Yeah, the overall planning essentially is based on that. So if I move out and move into the home itself, we have a more diagonal approach to the home than a straight approach. So we have a more 45-degree approach to the house. So these become the Dwarapalakas.
Okay.
As opposed to a very traditional Chavadi. And
why is that so? Why did you think of?
Again, it is a slightly more innovative approach. We didn't want to take the regular approach to design. So we although we use traditional techniques and planning strategies, we still tend to innovate with them. So these are certain elements that we kind of, so again, more exquisite, more ornate, just because we have the bandwidth. The columns are more ornate as well. The doors have certain details in them. Flooring here, we've done Kota flooring. This is a new door that we made with new wood, but in the more traditional manner. This is a traditional false ceiling we've done. So there are many. We have in between spaces, so these are like sit outs. So these actually become our chavadis.
Got it.
So this is our courtyard within, where we have very ornate columns, and so this is a Chaturashala structure, and we have the Padasale, we have the puja room, we have the Aya, so to speak, that is intact. So there we used all the old elements from the original home. We didn't change anything. We wanted it to be the way it is, because there again, I think it goes back to authenticity. How do you bring authenticity to the spaces that you design? If you're looking at culture and tradition, there are certain elements. The staircase, for that matter, is a wooden staircase that we've done with more traditional elements, but it's not a ladder that used to happen in the olden days. We've made a staircase with it, with the same approach, in the same way the ladders were made, but just the slope is so much more lower. Is a public project that we designed and built in a year. This was I'm also the DC approved consulting architect for Udupi Nirmiti Kendra.
Okay.
And I have been with them for the last few years now. Ever since I started my practice, I was fortunate enough to meet Arun Kumar, the director of the place. And he's been a patron ever since. And this was one of our biggest projects that we did in the recent past. So
just like a Colosseum or something.
Yeah, it's not really. That was never the intention. To be honest, when you look at it in plan, it is actually a sun and a moon.
It's a public get-together space.
It is an OAT. But the fundamental plan of the building, the whole concept started with the sun and the moon.
Okay.
Which is actually a sigil of Tulunadu. so to speak. Like you would see that everywhere. If
Yeah.
you
So
look
the
at
center is the
Botakola,
sun, and
the,
the revolving around it is
the moon. Yeah. So this is very symbolic of that right from the get-go, right from the planning stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then we looked at the lay of the land. We looked at how much of a difference there is in elevation,
Mm-hmm.
and we figured, and we had requirements such as the open air theater, a museum, a restaurant, an open air theater with its ancillary facilities like a stage, green room, that sort of a thing, and of course the Parashurama
Looks
statue.
like a difficult project, keeping topology in mind.
Topography, yeah, absolutely.
Topography.
Yeah. The thing is, we did, a thorough documentation of the site before we started the project.
Did you guys use LiDAR or something to?
We didn't
map
use
the-
LiDAR. We used a theodolite sort of system, digital survey.
Okay.
So we sent a digital surveyor, and we initially did a LiDAR scan of the whole space, but there were a lot of trees.
Okay.
So we couldn't really get the contour right. So then eventually we sent somebody out to get us the entire topography of the land digitally. And based on that, we identified the area which we can intervene, so that we can actually take advantage of the topography rather than work against it. So yeah, the way it slopes down, we have a beautiful view of the Western Ghats.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, so
Really great.
the intention was that we help with not spiritual tourism, but environmental, ecological tourism, and just a cultural experience.
Cultural tourism.
Cultural tourism, exactly. So that culture keeps repeating, right, for us throughout. I think the entire interview, that's been the case. So this OAT can accommodate up to about 1,000 people.
Oh.
Just the seating, and then if there are more, we have lawns. Which
What's the height from the sea level?
I think it's I'm not sure of the sea level. From the road right below, I think it's about 400 feet or so on top of the hill. So you have a beautiful panoramic view of the entire Western
really
Ghats and Udupi, because it's Parashurama, and there's that idea of Parashurama Kshetra, right? We wanted to kind of invoke that relationship between Parashurama and the Kshetra. So that's the mountain, that's the road that we take to approach it, and that's the project itself, how it looks from the front. So we were very keen on using traditional elements, materials from the side. So all of the stone is what is called pottukallu.
Okay.
And it is indigenous to the site itself.
Where is it sourced from?
It is from the site. So when we were doing a lot of cut and fill, we found those rocks. So we simply broke them down and built with them, so that it's very sustainable to do so.
Does justice to the
place also. Then your project belongs where it stands.
Correct.
So we kind of took that approach, and we were very, I personally was influenced with the idea that we are building 2023 Chaturmukha Basadi. So Chaturmukha Basadi is a very important tourist place in Karkala. And since we are intervening this area, we felt we should pay homage to Chaturmukha Basadi and its whole creation and history. So we decided, let's do a 2023 Chaturmukha Basadi. And so that's what you see on top, which is the museum.
Inspiration of the project is the Chaturmukha Basadi.
Just the museum part of it.
Okay.
Because we're kind of pulling in influences from the entirety of Tulunadu. Because this is a very important place in that sense, in its history now, in the recent history, I think.
So is it open for the public now?
At the moment, it's shut.
Okay.
But it will be open from September.
Got it. Nice. I like the element here, aesthetic.
Yeah, the entry, right? Yeah. So we did that very like entry and exit. We wanted the entire place to be universally accessible, so anybody can actually access the place. So we looked at a ramp that runs around, because we are working with the topography and the elevation. We designed this particular ramp around the entire structure, so anybody can actually walk up the space without having to climb steps up. So Murali, again, he was with this, he observed that a lot of it being a tourist center, you know how it is with everybody clicking selfies all the time. So he was looking at that narrative. So his photography, you will see that. So you can see how we've negotiated the slope, how we've integrated a nice little restaurant underneath the museum, and took advantage of the thing.
So how about parking at this space?
So at the moment, it is like a temporary parking area that right now that's created around the site, but there'll be in the future there'll be a more formal parking space that'll be built. So again, these brick jalis and all of that aren't really traditional elements, so to speak, but that didn't stop us from using it because it still is tropical. Bricks are still available locally, so why not?
And how do you manage like rainwater flow?
So we have drains everywhere that's been planned into the infrastructure, so that you never face any drainage, any flooding issue as such. So it is all integrated into the infrastructure very subtly. Actually, you can see it here. So all the water kind of goes into it, but then it's not very apparent. It's very subtle and hidden.
It's so visible.
Yeah. So
it should be functional.
Exactly. So you're very sensitive to the color palette, the material palette. So we have the copper roof, you have the wooden door, you have the stone columns, and
what's the material of the statue at the top?
It is bronze, made of bronze. Okay. Yeah. So we have a kid here. I think we've all done this at some point in our life, where we sit on this particular stone. It's called Ane Kallu. Technically, sometimes they design it as a elephant.
So how did the Udupi Samiti, the governing body for this respond to your design?
They're very encouraging and supportive. Essentially, projects like this, you don't have one client. Pretty much, you have a stakeholder in place, and I was interacting with the local minister. The MLA of Karkala, Shri V. Sunil Kumar, and project director Arun Kumar and his team. There were many engineer Sachin, engineer Pavan, and a whole lot of people and the general public. So we had a lot of interaction. We designed it. We would present it to them in the MLA's office, and then we would get feedback, and then we would go back, and then we would have site visits where during construction they would come and visit us, and we would have those interactions, talk about certain design decisions with them. So it was very interactive, which helped the project immensely, that whole interaction.
Pretty much impressed with your portfolio.
Thank you.
I'm really eager to see what's in the pipeline. Wish you all the best on your journey.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm really, really happy. The fact, this is my personal favorite fact, that you settled somewhere remote and doing exploration here. That's really needed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the podcast.
No problem. You too. You too.